To begin, I'd like to say I got exposed to Sun Tzu's The Art of War, perhaps, or 2005 when I was still in school. I found it in my brother's library, and I was on vacation and just sat and read it. Didn't read the whole book, but just when I saw it and I learned what it was, and I was like, yeah, I can use this for business. And that's what I really, sought to use Sun Tzu's Art of War for, is for its business purposes. So, um, you can use it for various other things, even though I do believe that its best use, of course, is for the art of war and warfare. Just also being aware that warfare in our times now is just a really different thing, and being so, you just kind of respect it for what it is. So I got some people that have their audio on. Go ahead and mute your microphones as best you can, please. Let's see here. All right. All right. So yeah. So anyways, let's move into this. Definitely want to be able to talk in regards to purpose, because I think not everything Sun Tzu says applies to being able to find yourself and know your purpose, because doing this in the beginning and understanding yourself in the beginning is like a big deal anyways, so it's like, as this, which is one of the most famous quotes, is he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. And all wars are won or lost before they're ever fought. And I feel like this right here could start people off on the perspective of, okay, you know, what the hell am I fighting for? It's like a purpose statement, like a mission statement in a business or what have you. You really do have to know what the hell you're fighting for and when to fight and when not to fight, because I like to say that we're all in some form of warfare because society has made it so. It's not really your fault, but it is what it is. And because it is what it is, there's certain frontiers of warfare that we face on a daily basis these days, mentally, spiritually, at work, within our families, traumas, the way society has affected us. It all kind of feels like war to us in our minds and in our neurologically and in our mental emotions and various other things that matter. But you will win when you know when to fight and when not to fight. And when wars are won or lost before they're ever fought, it means that you put some strategy and some tactics together. Like it's an old saying that says, war must be counseled, or the spirit of war must be met or balanced out with the spirit of counsel. So therefore, the counsel allows for you to be able to understand the mechanics of when you should spend your energy versus when you shouldn't spend your energy. Because when you choose to jump off the bridge and go do some shit that really doesn't help you in the long run, or perhaps that you yourself, you didn't consider it, you didn't plan it, you didn't like map it out, you didn't even take it to anybody else. Perhaps that's because you don't trust many people. And then you jumped off the bridge and you had to learn the hard way, because when you're going to win, when you're going to be victorious. And it does take a certain level of understanding of self in order to really get to that point. But when you know what you're supposed to be doing and you do it with a lot of intention and you do it at the right time, everything about the art of war, everything about finding yourself and ending up in the right place has to do with timing. And then of course, this is, I'm going to say every quote or everything that I discuss from Sun Tzu is the most important, or one of the most popular, or what have you. But the supreme of art of war is to be able to subdue the enemy without fighting at all. And I feel like when you take the enemy out of the picture, right? Take the enemy out of the picture and it's just you. how do you look at this now? You know what I'm saying? Just think about it, especially as it pertains to your life's purpose. You take the enemy away. Like, how do you fight for something without fighting? How does that manifest to you? Me personally, I could give you story after story of which, me, I initiated a war or a fight, or I started something, and and give you examples of where the war was started on me per se, and I did nothing, or and this is what the art of war really is trying to teach you, is that sometimes, you know you exerting yourself or overexerting yourself physically or whichever way, monetarily, to fight this particular battle, or combat this enemy or this oppressive force, using too much force, too much energy. Sometimes it's like judo, your energy will be used against you. It will be leveraged. So, your ability to understand that the wars that are being fought within yourself, really have no outside enemy. It's within you, and having this peace of mind to begin anything, it changes how warfare looks for you. You get what I'm saying? Because you'll meet people in your life, really, who are going to come at you with a certain energy. And once you have reached a certain level of understanding within yourself, and you're seasoned, they don't get the response out of you that they're looking for anymore. you know and that means that you're using strategy, and strategy is key. But when it comes to dealing with yourself, you know there's no outside enemy. There's an enemy, that is of basically wherever you come from, or whatever you're dealing with, and whatever it is that you've got to conquer within yourself. Like, that's a big deal, because at the end of the day, no matter what's going on, and I put this one out here also because in the midst of chaos, and I feel like we're in a time of chaos right now, you know there's opportunities, and opportunity and purpose, they're like two things that work in tangent with each other, you dig? And so, when there's chaos and opportunity, creeps itself there, it may require for you to play a different role. And this is why we look at it in the sense of warfare versus, the typical stuff that we've been taught. We look at it, when you look at it in the sense of warfare now, warfare may mean that an opportunity comes up. Like, say, when I have this conversation with people who are, a lot of politics these days, a lot of political talk in regards to opportunities, in regards to our concepts of what's going on in the country right now, or chaos, right? So I say, if there's so-called chaos, and let's say this chaos is Donald Trump being running another 4 years, or whatever the case is, because that could be chaos to some folks, so it seems, right? I'm going to find an opportunity there because there is something in there for me. Now, if the opportunity lays within the strengths that I currently have, then great. But if the opportunity asks me to do something else, asks me to stop being a welder and now be, an aircraft engineer, like, your ability to adapt, it's like being in war. It's like, you finding out that your enemy left the gate open, and you were going to go the whole other way around. Now the gate is open. You guys can slide in right away, but you got to move fast. And so this is what, like, I feel like our world is doing right now, is showing us chaos, but we are not necessarily seeing the opportunities. You have to look deeper to see the opportunities. And you got to first, like in the beginning, like I said, you got to have some kind of understanding of when to fight, when not to fight. It all really goes back to there. So now, moving forward, how you look at opportunity in your life right now is often based on what's going on, and basically your core understanding of yourself. In chaos, if you can't plant food, and that there's an opportunity for you to plant food and become a millionaire, then you're just missing an opportunity. Your adaptability is key, and you can't stay stuck in something. But especially, it all depends on how your purpose works. It is really, really different. Now, this one right here is about positioning. And it says, move not unless you see an advantage, use not your troops unless there's something to be gained, fight not unless the position is critical. I found myself recently in some mini battles, and it was key for me to stay at a particular advantage. Sometimes life, maybe you call it temptation, maybe you call it impulses, maybe it's trauma, but sometimes you see a mirage or an oasis, and it's not really anything there, and it takes you from a position of power to a position of weakness where you can be attacked easily. And I don't know, maybe I've just been through a lot more than certain people, and I've been exposed to these tactical ways of dealing with people. Now I use and view all my conflict in this kind of way. So I'm not here to be the person that's reactive. Some people are, I'm not. So you don't want to get drawn out by somebody who wishes you no good. And this happens all the time in relationships. And we sent all our troops. She called and said this, that, and that. You sent all your troops. You went out there and there was nothing to be gained. And you lost your positioning. And positioning in anything, whether it's work, whether it's, business, whether it's in your profession or your skill, positioning is critical. You don't know how to win until you know how to leverage. And so, when it comes to, understanding where your strength is, it's key to be there in the beginning. Because, for example, when it comes to the work that I do, like it only took a while for me to understand that, hey, if push comes to shove, there's still an opportunity for me to make it in this world using my skills, but maybe not necessarily the way I'm doing it now if things change. And if things do change, I got a whole bunch of shit that my father taught me that I can use as well too. But I prefer to stay in a position where I have the most strength and I have the most power, but like I said, opportunity comes up in chaos, and maybe I decide that I want to be in construction or something like that, and that's a better opportunity than what I'm doing right now. But the point is, don't move unless you see a clear advantage. Don't give up your strong post. Don't give up where you got it good. Don't move out of your house into her house. Don't quit your job. Don't lose anything. And this goes for me in previous situations, especially having the relationship issues that I had. One of the things that I always did was I never moved in with a woman. I never did. And that position, I've only known that they've moved in with me now, but I've never moved in with them. And I've always held an advantage, whatever advantage that comes with that. You'll find yourself holding these particular advantages and being tempted by people to get off of them. Don't do that shit. This is as simple as it gets right here. Now, this is a self journey, but correct your mistakes as soon as you found them. I feel like a lot of us, we live a life where the mistakes, like if we don't fix them fast enough, they just sink the whole entire ship. They do, Excuse me. And being able to effectively correct a mistake is not the same as being told, hey man, you're fucking up. Hey man, you're fucking up is like, you might be in denial of that. Correcting it is like force versus power. It's like you actually doing the work that it takes to take something out of your character, to take something out of your habitual behavior. Correcting your mistakes, the sooner you correct them, the sooner, I'm not talking about the sooner you make excuses for them and the sooner you acknowledge them, you're messed up. Nah, the sooner you stop doing that shit, that doesn't get you dividends or returns or a high return on investment, soon as you learn how to stay on your position, because if, let's say, for example, the mistakes that you've been making is that you've been jumping off your fucking square into places that you shouldn't be and losing the advantage. Now you understand, I always do that. Okay, what is it going to take to fix that? Now, of course, that leads to a lot more other social and behavioral things, such as trauma that instigates your decisions. Like, you know, you keep making the same mistakes over and over because there's a trauma response within you that you haven't corrected as yet. So therefore, perhaps maybe it happens mentally, or maybe it happens in the course of a relationship or every job or whatever it may be. But the bottom line is that it's basically a pattern that's showing itself that perhaps hasn't been found or haven't, and you know, you really don't. What's the use of knowing you got to fuck up or that you're not able to fix? And I'm not saying that everything is deemed a fuck up or a mistake, but the mistakes are significant because they cost you something and they're here to teach you something. But it's not just about, oh, learning that this is what happens when this happens. No, learning that because of that, I've chosen to literally stop doing this, stop doing that. I fixed certain things that led to this particular mistakes. And it means a lot. And it means a lot, especially when you're dealing with big organizations, especially when you're dealing with, you know, a lot of people who are, or businesses, or if you're a business person, these things are key. You know, being able to correct your mistakes means that you don't get hung by them, because there's always somebody in this world, especially if you're in a leadership position, there's always somebody under you, gunning for you, who's going to make sure that perhaps, you know, you pay for not correcting your mistakes. This is key because the art of war also has to do with leadership. But, you know, we're dealing with finding purpose and knowing self and understanding what, you know, what it means to be who we're supposed to be. And that's a whole different ball game than just, you know, knowing that, you know, you have issues and not really fixing them. Like, you know, that's a waste. That's a vanity. Now, this is the big one right here that deals with what most people struggle with the most. Sweat more during peace means that you bleed less during war. And, you know, when I do my coaching with guys and women too, but when I do my coaching, it's like you try to understand what you're supposed to be doing and put the discipline there, because some stuff you need not be that damn disciplined about doing it. You're expending a lot of time and energy on things that don't save you. So, you know, you got to be able to sweat more during peace, meaning you got to have the discipline and the diligence to put in the extra work that keeps you from bleeding when you do go to war, because you will go to war. But, you know, it's like, you know, we were watching the news the other day, and, you know, they were always talking, well, I don't even know, call it watching the news, but catching up on some of the shit that's going on. And one of the things I thought to myself, you know, is that most people are so complacent and are so lethargic that, you know, when they've had really good times and real, you know, things have been cool or whatever, they did no preparation for when things are not so good, you know. And it's like being prepared. Like I watch a lot of prepper stuff on YouTube and Instagram and whatnot. So I'm into that type of stuff. I'm into, like, you know, storing gallons and gallons of water, food, seeds, and all that type of shit. You know, being able to be on top of your games, you know, your game in the sense of the discipline that it takes to be prepared. It means everything. It means everything. But the thing is, complacency is what happens during peacetime. And so therefore, during peacetime, you're not inclined to preserve. You're not inclined to say, I don't need that. You know, you're in peacetime, you want everything to be good. You want to relax. You want to, and usually that's when you get caught slipping. And that's what happened to the American people. We got this false sense of being the greatest nation in the world and got caught slipping. And now many nations are on our heels in the sense of they're developing technologies faster than us. They're developing manufacturing sectors and productive sectors faster than us. Their agriculture sectors are developing and getting better than ours. So I'm just saying there are various levels on a national, you know, perspective economically to see where, you know, this so-called prosperity that we have here has led to a level of complacency that now we just allow certain people to do things, and during the times of peace and during the times when everything's good, that's when we get fat, that's when we get lazy, and then when things get bad, you're the first one to get slaughtered like a pig because you had no prep in, you had no self-discipline. Discipline makes things easier. We've got to be able to organize our lives. That's Dead Prez right there. I used to love that song. You know, that's what I use to transform my life to a certain degree. It's like discipline, you know, it's everything, but it's not, you know, it's not always when it comes to the work. It's not always when it comes to the work. It's when things are Gucci, when things are nice, and you think you know, you're kicking up and you're making good money, and you're spending a little bit too much and not putting any reserves, you know, it's usually when things like that happen. So when you're able to muster up the discipline in your life to go after what you're supposed to be going after, even when it's nice and cool and breezy, you understand? And it's a great time, and the women are batting their eyes at you and everything feels good. It's during those times that you got to be most prepared, you know, because, you know, another one here is that if the mind is willing, the flesh could go on and on without many things. And this is what the discipline really should put you in the motive of. Right now, I tell my woman, like, straight up, like, we have this false sense of excess that we've developed from, you know, from having more than we deserve in a certain degree. And what I mean by that is that, you know, paying for the convenience of grocery stores and eating out at restaurants gives people this false sense of entitlement that means absolutely nothing. Because, man, most of the shit that you're getting there, no matter how well dressed it is on a pretty plate, is still crap that's flown in. And now we've become so used to these things, these extra things that mean nothing. And these are the things that, in essence, rot away at the core of who we are. And our minds are not strong enough because our minds are constantly being pacified with a plethora of petty, insignificant shit. Let's be real. But if the mind is willing, though, the flesh could go on and on without many things. I did a fast where I didn't eat fucking food for 32 days, and I had never known before that I can go that long without putting food, like shit you chew, in your mouth. You know, it was crazy. And so, like, you know, you have the capacity to do that based on how you're designed, of course. You got to know yourself, know your design, and understand who you are, so that way you can challenge yourself on certain levels. But it's the mind first. The mind is the sharpest tool that we have to coordinate our efforts. So if the mind is willing, all this extra stuff that you're so used to, all these things that you question yourself about whether you can or not, if the mind is sharp enough, it can. But sometimes, like I like to say, like, the flesh being able to go on without many things is like you picking and choosing what you're going to sacrifice for what. You know, like I said, in warfare, these things matter. You got to be able to go without certain things, not because you don't want it or not because you couldn't use it, but more so because if I go without it now, I'll have more opportunities to secure that or pass that down to the next generation. You know, purpose is so key. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing, and be willing to put yourself under the rigors of the discipline that allows for you to get it done. Like, why are you sacrificing, and what do you need to sacrifice? You know, sometimes it's that substance that you use a little bit too much. Sometimes it's the texting and the talking that you're talking to all these little ladies on. You get what I'm saying? And all these people who are just, you're complacent with them. You know, they're there. They've been there. They're not going anywhere because you're comfortable and you haven't chosen to sacrifice them as yet. Send their ass off in a burning fire. You don't have to be Illuminati and actually kill them. Sacrifice them and not talk to their ass, period. And this one, I know you guys remember, look at the picture and be like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's exactly what warfare is about. All warfare is based on deception, distraction, perceiving things and getting you off your game. This kid comes out here looking like a girl, essentially, and he's a wrestler and he beats your ass. Why? Because you're looking at what he's dressed at. You know, and you know, strategy is the biggest part of all kind of warfare. But think about it when it comes to your own purpose. Sometimes you gotta, sometimes you gotta dress it up. Sometimes you can't let your intentions be so clear. You know, sometimes you got to look like a fool and be willing to look like a fool, even if you know for sure that what you got is gold. You feel me, bro? You're like, this is the thing that complacency that I told you about in regards to being comfortable, right? Is what makes you not want to appear weak when you're strong because you think it's beneath you. Stop that shit. Stop that shit. I got people who think that, you know, they think certain things because of what I've done and what have you. No, I don't live like that. I'm never going to do anything to make anybody think that I have money or anything, because that's not what I want people to think. You know, like, you got to be able to appear weak when you're strong. You got to be able to appear strong perhaps when you're weak. They got to be able to decide which one it is. And if they are wrong, then boom, your strategy worked. And so therefore, you know, one of the biggest things is that we're always talking about is that if you're sharing too much, you know, it can lead to disaster. If you're leaking your strategies before, you know, before it's time to battle, like some stuff, not even your troops need to know. You know, and this is the aspect of leadership that a lot of men don't really get a lot of times, especially in relationships. Like, your woman ain't gonna always have the answer, and she ain't gonna always understand why you're doing what you need to do. But you've got to be able to call that audible, or know when to call that audible, and change the whole entire plan, and everybody go along with it, because that's your job as the general. Your job as the general is to prepare yourself for a battle that you can win, and understand essentially that even if you lose the battle, right? Even if you lose the battle, that may have been a part of the strategy. You got me? That's big. That's big. That's a real big one. A lot of us need to let our egos go when it comes to what you want, because depending on what kind of energy you got, especially, and we talk about this on the cosmology coaching sessions. And if you've been on calls with me, man, I encourage you guys to get back on them, you know, because you need to study the calls and study your chart and understand what kind of energy you got, because depending on the kind of energy you got, you're better off not telling anyone. And then sometimes you're better off telling people. You just really got to understand what strategy works better for who you are, you know, and that's all that really matters. Because then, you know, when you think about deception and the aspects of deception that are engaged or you know, embedded into art of war, you know, you got to engage people with what they expect. And, you know, this quote right here is real. It is what they are able to discern and confirms their projections. It settles them into predictable patterns of response, occupying their minds while you wait for the extraordinary moment, that which they cannot anticipate. Come on, man. If she think you a fool, let her think you a fool. Because guess what? Eventually, they all deal with you like a fool because they think you're a fool. But they don't know, you know, we have a saying in Jamaica, you got to play fool. You got to play fool to catch wise. You got to play the fool to catch the wise. They think they're so smart, but you're the one who is essentially playing it low. You know, okay, I'm a fool. I'm gonna act like a fool every now and then, because you know what? If you think I'm a fool, you're not gonna stop me. You're you're not gonna even believe me. You're not even going to believe in me either. But guess what? They'll stay out your way. It'll be easy to deal with them because you know you've already created an illusion that hides your main intent. And that's the thing, you know, some people, I get it. I've been that guy. I didn't want to be hiding my intentions or whatever the case is. But when you have a life, when you have a desire for your life that some people can't get with, sometimes telling them is like a bad omen, or letting them know the truth is a bad omen. I have two ways that I look at it, right? One is you're a certain energy type of person, right? And you tell people and they hardly believe you. They think you're fucking crazy. And you look at them and they don't believe in you. But they play you down and they still like you, like, oh, you're just extra. You're always like that, or whatever the case is. And then you have some other people, you tell them what your dreams, and they're like, oh, wow, okay, that's the case. And they themselves are either going to be a person that helps you get there or a person that becomes an obstacle in your way. And so, you know, sometimes, especially when you're dealing up close and personal with people whose feelings may turn sour on you, telling them what you want to do and what you're going to do, even though you believe in yourself, and you're just doing that because you want them to believe in you. And so sometimes letting them think or just leading them off stray or whatever is better, so that way they can get out of your way. You know, because when that extraordinary moment comes that they can't anticipate, it's not necessarily the same as warfare, where, you know, you're gonna, you know, they're gonna leave something, be unsuspecting of you, and you come and bomb the city. No, it's gonna be that this person has the potential to be a major detractor or a hater. And since they are anticipating something completely different, they cannot anticipate the big move that you're going to make. So that means they won't be in the way. They're just going to be one of the folks like, damn, I thought yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted your ass to think that. Keep thinking that. Strategy without patience can be causatic. It can be caustic. You know, patience without strategy can become anemic. Having both strategy and patience is a rare gift. That's Brandon Marshall. Listen, some of us, you know, we rush speed ahead and we run into the wall, and we run into the wall as many different times as we possibly can. And that's how we learn. Some folks, that's just how they are. But, you know, he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. Strategy is all about when. Strategy is all about patience. And within strategy, within patience, like, you develop more belief in yourself, because damn, you can't do it right this moment. And that shit kind of annoys you. It kind of bothers you that you can't do it right this particular moment. You can't get it at this particular moment. But believing in it within yourself and believing in it strongly, you know, all right, you get to learn, okay, it's going to come through. It's going to come through. The stronger I believe in this, the more sure I am that this is going to happen. And then guess what? Because of that belief and because of that willingness to really wait and map things out versus, you know, being bullying and forcing it through, you know, you get rewarded, you know. And this one right here, I think is key to understand, especially when, you know, you consider all these different aspects of warfare and your life and your purpose. Like, it's your energy, you know, it's your energy that you're exerting. And so it's like, you know, it may be likened to the bending of a crossbow. And just think about it. The crossbow requires for you, you know, a already tight string, right? You know, wood that flexes, but flexes just to a certain amount. You can't pull it back too far. You have to pull it back with a certain level of tension in your hands. And then you have your mind. It's hand and eye coordination that you have to deal with. Then you have the bow, the arrow within itself. Then you have your elbow where you pull it. You know, the decision to release the trigger is a buildup, essentially, of all that energy that you use. Because now it's not like rage and energy, right? It's precision energy. It's accuracy. It's an energy that it's fueled by a mental capacity. Because unlike, let's say, going out and stabbing the guy in warfare, when you have a bow, you're anticipating that this moves from this area to the other area and accomplishes the mission that I want. Like if I miss, if I missed, I just wasted all that freaking energy, you know? And guess what? I'm not saying that you're going to avoid, you're going to make everything. You can't avoid missing sometime. But the more you refine your approach to the draw, it's almost like shooting a gun, right? If you steady your hand, use two hands, you know, and understand how to use it, point the gun. It's not like the freaking movies that everybody just pulls out a gun and bop, bop, bop. And this guy with a big caliber gun, he ain't even that strong. He's not hitting any shots like that, not without a form. So your energy is like your form, you know, and when you put it towards something, it's when you're pulling back on that tension. Because you could, if you pull too hard, break the crossbow, right? You could break your string. So many different things go into it, but that's the decision-making process. So it's key to understand how you use your energy, you know, because the other thing is, like this quote says, there are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of sovereign which must not be obeyed. This is why you want to find your purpose in life, so you can know which one of these shits that you're not going to go along with, you know, which fights you're not going to fight. You know, some armies should not be attacked. Like, don't, you know, like you got to learn these strategies that he talks about in this book. Like if it's a strong army and you're not that strong, that's not the one you want to go fucking with. You know, if it's a town that you like, but your forces are not strong enough specifically to overtake the whole town, why besiege it? You know, there's so many different things that in life that we're not going to like, right? We're not going to, you know, be okay with, but sometimes should not be contested. Certain things, you know, if the law is abusive or, you know, unjust, yeah, by all means, change it, contest it. But there are going to be some positions of which, you know, you just got to leave alone. That, you know, and at the same time, at the end of it, it says there are going to be certain commands which you can't, you know, you just won't be able to obey because it's not right. So it's like being a warrior for yourself or being a warrior for your life's purpose comes with so many different things. And that's why a general, you know, Sun Tzu was a general in ancient China. You know, a general is not just somebody you just pick out of the bunch and say, you can do this job. You know, he has to have a just as great of understanding of what's, you know, of what's right and what's wrong, even though he may work for, let's say, the king or somebody higher than him. You know, these things matter. These things matter. And I suggest, especially when it comes to your time and your energy, you know, you got to know which trees that that you shouldn't bark up. You got to know which avenues that you shouldn't go down. You know, like everybody's got to have these strict lines that they draw, that they know that I'm not doing that. I'm not going there. It's not, you know, I'm cool with that. I can live here. Like, you know, like the people who want to do skydiving and jump out of airplanes, I'm straight. I'm not interested. I'm not saying I'm afraid. I'm not interested. I've drawn the line a few places in my life, and that includes things that I'll do. That includes wars that I'll wage, you know, positions that I'll take. You got to have these things. It's all in you, and it's all about who you are. Because at the end of the day, man, he who wishes to fight must first count the cost. And this can be taken in so many different ways, this can be taken in so many different ways, especially when you consider relationships, when you consider, purpose, your work, compensation, what a fight looks like, because fighting these days is hasn't been the traditional sense of fighting. This is not the Civil War or even World War II anymore. Most of the fighting is going on in a social level. It's going on in your head. It's going on, trying to find out, trying to influence who you become versus you not becoming who you're supposed to be, which is a big difference. So when you decide that you're going to go towards something, if you decided that, hey, I'm going to be a musician, you got to count the costs. If you decide you're going to be a doctor, you got to count the costs. I remember talking hours in various different conversations with my cousin about whether he's going to go to med school or not, the cost of those first 6 years of residency, making a certain capped amount versus after he gets out of residency and he can start making the big amounts that he wants, and what he needs the money to do in between time in order to wait, and various other things. All these things need to be considered meticulously as best as possible. And that's why, sometimes when it comes to doing all of this stuff, right, is why men need counsel. People need counsel, but men need counsel, because sometimes we're not considering the casualties that are there of waging certain fights or certain wars or going to certain battles. It's like in relationships or whatever the case is it worth having this argument? Is it worth having this argument? Is it worth saying this? Can I bear the cost, the potential cost of this going wrong? Because I just wanted to say this, that, and that, but it was an inappropriate thing to say at the particular time. And that could go towards your purpose as well too. You got to decide if you're going to invest the time into doing this, because it's going to cost something, and the fight, like I said, it's not the physical fight or always the conflict kind of fight, because not every conflict is adversarial. Some conflicts are just here for you to, internalize things. And there's not necessarily, even if someone's there, even if there's another person, it doesn't mean that it's adversarial. It doesn't mean that they're against you. Sometimes what is to figure out within the fight is within oneself, even though it may be or may involve other people. So, understanding what kind of fights you're going to get into, what kind of battles are worth your time and your energy, you got to be able to do that and count the math first before you move anywhere. Because, in this world where we're looking for purpose and deeper understanding of ourselves, the skillful employer of men will employ the wise man, the brave man, the covetous man, and the stupid man. And let's look at this in a very practical sense. And what it means is that the wise man knows for sure that almost everyone can help him. Almost anyone can help him. Help can come from various different levels. Like wisdom can come from various different people. But at the same time, we all these energies and these people are around us. We're around brave, stupid, and jealous and envious people all the time. It's just a matter of how we use them in order to get to the objective that we're trying to get to. Like, you don't want to hang out with the stupid guy all the time, but sometimes he's going to give you an idea of what stupid people do and how stupid people behave. And you need that market research. The covetous man, he can be played. He can be played because, let's say, for example, he envies something that you have. So now, let's say, for example, you create the diversion of something that you have that he is jealous of, but you don't even value it none whatsoever. He can be used like a pawn. The brave man, hopefully you treat the brave man the best out of all of these guys, because he's the one that's going to go out there and do some things for you when you're not in a position to do. And the wise man, you're going to have to listen to him. So, everybody serves a purpose, but you're not going to necessarily be out here trying to listen to the stupid man in how to move forward in life. And then let's just be real. The people in your life, you're not going to always get rid of all of them. Sometimes, like I said, the stupid man's opinion tells you a lot more about the stupid people, so that way you can understand it, because maybe you don't hang with stupid people. You know, so it's different levels, especially, and it all also depends heavily on what your purpose is, what direction you're going in, and how that applies to, you know, the way you move, you know, because I'm telling you, how you move in your life dictates what is attracted to you. And then when it comes to, you know, the people in your life who are detractors or haters, you know, people in your life that feel like obstacles, there's some real people in your life that feel like obstacles. Feels like nothing you do is right, or they'll always be against you. But if you wait by the river long enough, the bodies of your enemies will float by. And this is a dual principle in the art of war. It is, because it's saying that it goes with the fight without fighting kind of thing. You know, if you wait long enough, these people or these blockages and these obstacles in your way, they will remove themselves. So sometimes you don't have to engage in warfare with them, none whatsoever. Sometimes your purpose or that project or these ideas that you have that you're working on, sometimes they don't need to be heard by anyone else yet. Sometimes you don't have to engage it with people right now. Sometimes you just got to practice it some more. Sometimes you got to go over it and make sure that it's penned and it's masterful for when that time does come for you to really put it in front of others and really take action. Guess what? All the obstacles or have moved out the way. If not, you've been planning it and working on it so long and preparing it so much, the one or two obstacles that are there, you bulldoze through them. You know, so in a nutshell, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Focus on you. It gives you a better time and opportunity to dot your I's and cross your T's. You know, because that one may know how to conquer without being able to do it. And what that means is that if you allow your enemies to just fuck up and you not interrupt them, you not talk too much, you not tell them your plans, you leave a cloud of mystery over what it is that you need to do, because they are essentially, you know, it's hard to say. There's a lot of people who want to act like these people in their lives are their buddies sometimes, when in essence they're your enemies. And now you gotta, if you're gonna keep them in your life, you better play the cards right. You better play the cards right. It's kind of like being in a relationship, you know, let's say with your child's mom who doesn't like you, and for whatever reason, because you left her or whatever the case is, but you still got to be there to co-parent with this child. Listen, if you start being the one that acts up, then guess what? You have nothing to stand on. If you start being the one that's too aggressive, guess what? You become the predictable one. Sometimes when people are unjust against you, all you have to do is just sit back and let them make their mistakes. Don't engage them. Sometimes you got to know when to run away. Let them do all the fucking up on their own. You just sit back and play cards for your strength. For your strength and your strength only. While they're over there trying to make a tumult against you, trying to stir things up, guess what? If you just stay out of it at the right pace, or perhaps you do other things to you know, and that's higher level art of war, to make sure that basically you're agitating certain other aspects to make them make more mistakes. Yeah. That's different levels right there. But listen, let them make their mistakes. Let them make their mistakes, especially during this time in the world right now. Things are being found out at a higher pace than ever before. People who don't mean you well, man, you'll see just in the last few months alone. Something happened that revealed the whole plot to you. And you're like, damn, this is how it was. Yeah, that's how it was. They didn't like you. They don't care. They got some issues. They got some trauma, and they acting up. Let them act up. Let them cancel themselves. Let them hang themselves. Because at the end of the day, right, there's no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare. There's no benefit for you to be constantly at battle with people. That's how you take that personal. It's draining your freaking resources. You got children to raise, but you're being bothered by women? Come on. You got a job that is your perfect job that you can put more energy into, but you're being what? Distracted by relationship problems? If that shit keeps up, what's going to happen to the resources? Like, because that's like internal conflict within a war, within your troops, essentially speaking. Your family, your friends, and your network do not benefit if you're being caught up in prolonged battles. Because like that's how it works. The longer you take fighting some internal stripes, basically not correcting your mistakes, not thinking over things, not knowing yourself better enough, that leads to a lot of engagement in futile battles, essentially speaking. You can't be caught up fighting all the time. And I say this a lot for a lot of the single dads out there that are like myself. When these people are conflicting against you, like, you've got to find a way to dead the beef and dead all these different things to separate yourself from anything that puts you in a warfare and position where you're not able to do what you need to do for yourself first. Build up what you need to build up, work on your purpose, gain your strength, hoard your resources, bro. All that back and forth is taken away from your ability to have the energy you need to put into firing that crossbow properly, to firing that weapon and hitting on target. You're not focused because you're warring all the time. And what happens is men get jaded from always meeting opposition. We get jaded. The relationships don't work anymore because we think we're in war still. It's like being a military vet. He comes home. One of my uncles, it was years after the Korean War or something like that. He came, like, he was old at this time, but he still had some issues. He'd draw his guns sometimes, and and he had a lot of them. Like, sometimes he'd pop out with 5, and you'd be like, what the hell's going on? That's what it's like when we're constantly in war. And if war itself is traumatizing, and we're not talking about fighting anybody else, sometimes it's that internal conflict. Is that internal conflict will have you caught up with somebody you ain't supposed to be caught up with. The internal conflict will have you literally in situations with people trying to fix them, save them, because you got some issues and you're trying to save her or save them, or and now what? All the saviorship, you done missed the opportunity to focus on what's most important to you, and then guess what happens? You're not being used for what you're supposed to be used for. And guess, and even the finest sword, as Sun Tzu said, if it's plunged into salt water, it'll eventually rust. It will eventually rust. Your blade needs to stay sharp on doing what it's supposed to be doing, not being caught up in frivolous acts of war. Not being caught up by people who don't mean you well. Like, you can't be around people who don't make your blade sharper. And it's so important, and because it's not just about the people that'll dull your blade, because people can be like salt water, but it's also the habits that you partake in that are like salt water, that are rotting away at the sharpness that you have. The habits that you haven't kicked yet, the corrections of certain things within yourself that you haven't really dealt with. These are all things that are making your sword harder to draw. It's not practice anymore. It's atrophy. It's damage. And so therefore you won't be as sharp, and you won't be ready to take action if, essentially speaking, that you're not empowering yourself to take action. Like, all these different things add up, because how long are you going to sit on your talent? How much more help do you need to go to the next level of your talent or your skill? What else do you need to study? But don't be sitting over there atrophying away. People need you in many cases to be that sharp sword. At the end of the day, like, if you got a sharp sword, a sword that was sharp and is no longer sharp, like, people are gonna look at you like a clown. Like, you the dude, you walking around here with a dull blade. It's pretty, but it serves no fucking purpose. And that's how we end up in our lives sometimes. Just, we become novelty items. You're not the real thing anymore. You're just a bobblehead. You're not the real running back, Barry Sanders bobblehead. Remember those things? Is it just a novelty item? You put it on a shelf. You can't let your sword, and your sword represents so much. Your sword represents all the power that you can manifest in your hands. It's an extension of your will, essentially speaking. That's why, coming up, remember, we play all these games, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, all these different things, swords and whatever weapons that we put in our hands. We were misled about what it's supposed to mean, but it's an extension of our power. It adds to our precision. It adds to, that internal energy that we're trying to put out. That's why, what's his name, Ryu, he can shoot through his hands. We can shoot through our hands, metaphysically speaking, and that's what the sword represents. But we got to have the refinement. We got to have the refinement. We got to have the counsel. We got to have all the different things in place to make sure that our swords are not being plunged into salt water, because a lot of us are going towards things that are essentially just a saltwater bucket for your sword. This is a saltwater bucket for your sword. We're wrapping up the class right now. We can hop on the line a little bit afterwards, but you got to be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. Thereby, you can be the director of the opponent's fate specifically. I love this one because it talks a lot about the fact that when you start really understanding what you're supposed to do, the opponent, like I said, it's not this person that you're looking to, to fight against. It's really the obstacles that are standing in your way from you becoming the director of your own fate. You becoming the aggressor that is also wise. You're not just somebody that's jumped out and say, yeah, here I am, and didn't understand that there was somebody on top of the roof waiting with a sniper to take you out. So, you got to be subtle. You got to let your plans be as dark and impenetrable as the night, like Sun Tzu says. And then when you move, fall like the thunderbolt. The time to prepare yourself is key. In all battles and all warfare, like the great general trains his staff. It trains his troops. It trains them. It makes sure everyone is capable of performing on the field when the time is there. The battleground is vast. And so essentially speaking, he won't necessarily tell all of his troops what the plan is, but he will prepare them to execute the plan. And that's key. You have to be prepared to execute your plan. And you got to be able to let your plans be subtle. You got to be able to hold certain things down. Like I said before, when you tell people what you're going to do, in many cases, it can easily be used against you. Even sometimes when you're dealing, relationships and partnerships, sometimes you can't tell her everything. And every man knows this. Every man knows this. And I feel like every woman knows it too. They know that there's certain things that they can't necessarily tell to somebody else because it'll mess up the plan or whatever the case is, and so you got to be like that, because trust is what you need, especially in relationships. You don't have to tell her everything if she trusts you, because she's not your enemy. So the fact that certain plans and certain things are not necessarily exposed to her all the time, it doesn't matter, because she's not the enemy. She benefits from the plan when the plan goes good. And the reason why you have to make your plans, not be known, is because perhaps in the midst of your relationship, in the midst of your job, in the midst of your family, letting certain people know certain things may put them in a position where they can spoil your plan. And then if the plan spoils, then everybody who knew about it gets to take part in the fact that you just fell off like that because everybody knew what your plan was. So it's like, your ability to let, to marinate, let things marinate for a little while, plan it, and be deceptive to a certain degree in what you're doing to get what you need to get done, it matters, because then you'll have the momentum that's on your side. And the momentum is very, very important. You ain't got no momentum if everybody sees you coming. You don't. And like I said, this could be applicable on several different levels. Maybe what you have to do in life doesn't require for your plans to be, subtle and not known to everyone. But sometimes it's your intentions that you may need to be subtle. So you just got to deal with it in everything, and you just really all at the end of the day know yourself. Because the last thing, that's one of the things that I love that Sun Tzu says, is that if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. But there's stipulations here with this, and that stipulation, essentially speaking, is that, hey, if you know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you're screwed, because you only know one half of the equation. But if you know both of you guys, then you could plan. You can make plans. And that's really what it's got to be. It starts with you knowing yourself. And everybody knows that this is what I do. And my coaching is definitely geared towards helping you know yourself. And but when it comes to your purpose, I feel like it's a different knowledge of self. I had a coaching call with somebody today, and I was just like, if you just operate according to certain things, all the answers will be better. It will be easier. They'll come to you much easier if you do certain things according to your design, according to how you're meant to do things, versus just doing things, without the knowledge. Having knowledge in yourself and having understanding of yourself is what you need first. And then, of course, understanding who your enemies are, understanding who you're doing battle with, that's key, because you don't necessarily just know that without certain levels of awareness, right? A lot of us are fighting or in conflict with people that we should know by now. You should know how she is. You should know how they are. It's kind of like your parents. Like, after a certain age, you kind of can, I can quote my dad. I know exactly what he's going to say, and my mom too. I know exactly what they're going to say. And the thing about it is here that I think is key is that sometimes your enemy. And of course, it doesn't have to be a quote unquote enemy. It could be your partner, right? It could be your mother, it could be your family member or whomever. It doesn't have to be your enemy, but you can know this person, but because of your own emotions, right? Because of your own delusion, or because of your not really knowing yourself well enough, you are expecting a different outcome from this person. And that's crazy. If you know the person, if you understand them well enough, then you should be able to see exactly what steps that they're going to take. And that takes some studying. That takes some real in-depth understanding of who you're dealing with when it's all said and done. You know what I'm saying? So this is a part of the game that's really transformative, that sometimes you really do have to spend the majority of your time focused on knowing yourself and understanding yourself only before you even get into this whole thing with these people. Because I work with guys, sometimes they have children with these women, their wives and all this type of stuff. And, they really, they know them, but they don't know them, because you're expecting something different. And like, that's the thing. You can't expect a battle to go a different way other than what it's telling you. Like, you can't, like, that's emotional sabotage, and probably caused by your trauma, and probably some trauma bonding situations where you're in a situation where this person is going to do this. You almost know it, but nonetheless, you think somehow, some way that they're not. Nah, you can't do that. You got to know yourself first. And the amount of time and energy that you expend into knowing yourself, leads to a better understanding of your, basically a better capacity to do the same thing for someone else, especially if you're dealing with somebody who's difficult, or perhaps somebody you have to deal with for a long time. So it all goes to yourself. So guys, as usual, I work with people one-on-one with the cosmology coaching sessions, and it's totally entirely based on your date of birth and your astrology, and combines other energetic factors as well too. Sometimes it's very, very simple to really understand yourself, but I tell you, like, this is a whole process, just like the general of Sun Tzu or any general of any army isn't just he isn't just picked out the first day he enrolls in the army or whatever. He's not picked out to be the general that day. You have to really engage yourself in some extensive studies. I see some guys in here that we've been on coaching calls already, and I just encourage you to keep doing the work, keep going over these energies that you have, and learning how to use them, learning how to be aware of certain things, because sometimes we're in our own world and we're not necessarily understanding how our behaviors or even just our nonverbal presence. And I talk about this in my book, just the nonverbal presence itself. Everybody brings a level of nonverbal presence. You're always communicating with other people, always communicating with other people. And sometimes you're not conscious of the communication that you're giving out to others. And it help you perhaps avoid some of the obstacles that you probably, easily find yourself in, because you're not really that conscious of what you're doing. So when you become more conscious of yourself, then you're in a better position. And as usual, guys, if y'all appreciate what we're doing over here, shoot me some Cash App love. You know what I'm saying? Everything is appreciated. That's # I am Nakada. And we're gonna open it up for some discussions. And let me check on some of these other stuff. If you're in the chat call, the Zoom call, please understand that everybody can't talk at the same time. But we're here. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, let's see what we got all up in here.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
Who's this, man?
This is Jonathan.
What's going on, Jonathan?
Oh man, not too much, man. I appreciate this session you're doing tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, purchased your first book, Heart on Break, and really was helpful to me. So I want to jump on here and see what you had to say and everything. This is good stuff. I have the book Art of War. I haven't really gotten into it yet. Just kind of skimmed through the first few pages. But one thing I wanted to ask, in dealing with myself, right? This know thyself thing. I find that I have a lot of inner conflict, and it tends to it's like I'm not at ease at certain times because I have this inner conflict. Basically, what I want to do, what I know I shouldn't be doing, I wind up doing. You know what I'm saying? It took me a while to figure out, like, man, why am I feeling like this kind of stress or whatever? And it finally dawned on me. It's like, man, damn, I'm at conflict with myself. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, shit, that's the worst conflict to have, is that conflict with yourself, because part of you knows what you should be doing or should not be doing. But that's, kind of the stuff that you wind up doing. How do you kind of address that? Do you have any advice on how to start addressing that?
I honestly feel as if, with the way that is, the internal conflict aspect of it, it's like a personal thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's also honest in the sense that if you see it happening within yourself, right? And it kind of, it solves the problem. You know where the source of the issue is coming from, right? And so it puts you in a position where you can, like, okay, well, damn, maybe I need to be, a little bit more focused on myself, or what have you. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, like, that's where I feel like the stuff that I talk about in the cosmology coaching sessions that I do with folks is that it helps to, like, basically figure out what those internal conflicts are saying, because they're saying something from the perspective of, let's say, what you're supposed to be learning right now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
versus like, let's say what you know, let's say you have a relationship that you got going on, right?
Right.
And in essence, you're really focused on this relationship, but you have these internal conflicts that are going on, and it's basically saying to, in a nutshell, okay, I need to focus on this internal, this dialogue, like, because what is it trying to say to me? Because like when I do, you know, the cosmology sessions, it's based on a system called human design, and so you can literally find out what kind of energetic composition that you have that's really causing the conflict, that's really, you know, saying certain things. Let's say, for example, for me, I'm an overly mental type of person, right?
Right.
And I tried my best. Like I even had jobs where, you know, they would, these corporate jobs put you through all these tests and try to,
Mm-hmm.
you're analytic and you're this and you're that. And then I learned that from some of these things. But like, bro, no matter what it is, I'm just gonna be like that. You know, so it's like when I deal with certain situations in my life, like I gotta, okay, this is part of me, but I'm just not gonna let it take over. I'm not gonna let it stop me from doing what I'm supposed to do. But I'm aware that I'm doing this right now, but I know, what I want. And
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes, you know, even in my own chart, you know, there's a level of inadequacy or not believing in self. Like these are all common things. It's just kind of like you got to learn how to fight the mental battle and just be okay with that shit. You know,
Right. Right.
you know, say,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
it's the whole feel the fear and do it anyways kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then once you're feeling the fear, like you're still obligated to do it.
Right.
You know, so you know, don't let the internal conflict and the internal talk, but the internal talk is good because it's telling you something where you need to work at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then the other thing is like the internal talk gets louder the less you listen.
Right.
So it's talking to you for a reason, to get your attention, for you to pay attention on what you need to pay attention, or it may just be to develop the strength to shut it the hell up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes the internal talk that we're having, like you gotta base that on like where's it coming from? Is this some natural shit, or am I repeating what my mama told me or my ex said to me? Ex said you ain't shit. Now you ain't shit in your own head.
Right. Right.
You know, social programming. Sometimes the internal dialogue is social program, and that's why I
Right.
recommend like the coaching sessions, or you know, just really looking it up. You can do it on your own too. On the human design websites, you can pull the chart and just kind of get started, but just kind of looking and see where the talk is coming from energetically, deal with it, and have less problems with it when it comes up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah. Anybody else got any more questions or anything to say?
I have a
Appreciate you,
question.
Jonathan, though. Sure. What's up, man? Who's that?
Hey, my name's Nick.
Hey, what's up,
I'm
Nick? You
Hi.
one of my
How's it
longtime
going?
folks.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I've been reading the Harlem Break since I first started college. I read it through college. It really helped me kind of uh, figure out my purpose. Who's like trying to help me forward, and just like little ways to filter out the people who are kind of standing in my way.
Right.
So my question is here. In my experience, I've had a lot of people who say that they're helping, and they usually believe like genuinely that they are helping, and just a lot of people trying to give me all this advice. How do I know for sure like who genuinely has the way to help me figure out my purpose, or who's on my side, like who's an ally, who's like an unintentional enemy, if you will.
Hmm. That's that's a all right. First of all, I feel like when you have a strategy for achieving your life's purpose, it it makes it easier to basically decipher between the person that's here to help versus the person that's just occupying space. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that strategy and what your purpose is within itself really speaks the highest volume of that. Now, therefore, moving forward, now you got people who love you, right? You got people who care, but you also have people who love you and care that don't have what it takes. They, you know, they're not the ones. They're not the help. And it's okay, but you have to learn, because there's this thing called conditioning. I don't know if you know, we've never done a session before. Yeah, but in the sessions, everybody has conditioning based on various different factors. Essentially, meaning that your mom might be a conditioner, your brother might be a conditioner, telling you shit from their perspective when you live a whole entirely different life. You know, it's like, you know, I've had these things with siblings as well, because we're different. Like, bro, like, you can't tell me to do that shit because I'm different. You know, like, you got to respect my difference. So I feel as if when it comes to people who are essentially saying that they have a contribution to make and you should listen to them, like, you know, I got to a point where even my dad, who I've been listening to my whole life, advice doesn't really hit anymore because it's not tailored to the direction that I'm going. So the more I take my direction and go into my direction, then the direction itself leads you to people who understand where you're going. Or they see you on this road and be like, oh gosh, Nick is on this road. Nick, you know, give you a glass of water or something, because it's going to be a long trip. Like, you're going to find the people who are more attuned with your purpose by digging into your purpose, essentially, you know?
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
so the more, and then the other thing is the basic lesson on that is listening. If the motherfuckers is not listening or haven't heard you out completely, they don't listen to them. They haven't heard you. They don't consider your pain points. They don't consider your dream, you know, what it means to you. They're just, okay, they're just trying to offer arbitrary feedback. Nah. If they're not listening also, if they don't understand, if they can't, you know, internalize what it is that you internalize, and that's hard. It's hard to find people who feel the same way that you feel about what you feel about. So they're not listening. That's a major sign. That's a major sign that they're not here to provide you with guidance or direction in that capacity, you know?
Huh. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. That's a big one.
Uh, that makes sense. Thank you.
No problem, bro.
Oh, first of all, thank you for all the help that you've given me in the books and like just answering the comments. It really helps me keep focused.
No problem, Nick. I appreciate that, man. I thank you for being supportive all these years, bro. Who else we got? Anybody else wanted to rap? All right, fam. Well, if that's the case, man, I'm gonna get up out of here. We're gonna make this available again. I'm probably gonna post it on the Facebook page. As usual, guys, man, I appreciate all the love, all the support that you guys have given me over the years, and we're gonna keep these going. You know, check out the one-on-one coaching sessions that are available with the cosmology, because, you know, if you know, like, I even recommend, because like I tell people, just kind of, you know, just look at it for yourself first. You know, look at it from the perspective that, you know, you can learn a little bit more about your patterns, and then look at it from a perspective of, what am I trying to do right now? You know, what am I trying to accomplish right now with my life? Like, and how do I resolve, you know, internal conflicts with myself, misguided directions and various other things. And I think it definitely helps. But like I said, it's not like a one fix, you know, one thing quick fix all. It's a process. It's a gradual process of really learning yourself and understanding yourself at a better level. So if anything, guys, I'm out of here, and we'll be having the next one in the next couple of weeks as well. Appreciate all the love and support, guys. Let me see, what is somebody else in the chat? I'll get one. Orlando, what's going on, man? It was over there at the Heart on Break website, and underneath the Work With Me tab, you can go right there right now, and the Work With Me session, and you'll have the coaching sessions right there you can get. I also have the coaching, the cosmology recordings. So these are not like live sessions, but they're more based on once you get the data to me. So essentially, it's like, I'll give you a recording, and it's more so based on your purpose, though. It's more so based on your purpose and your destiny aspects. So that's a big one. So, all right, guys, I'm about to get up out of here, man. I appreciate all the love, and we're going to get out of here. Peace.